So here we are, we're finally going to do it. For a number of years now, I've been travelling the world telling my rock and roll stories to anyone that was interested. And it was suggested while we're in lockdown, well, why not share some of those on the internet? Indeed, I've been writing these down for my latest book, Smoke and Mirrors. So I thought it might be fun just to share one or two of these. So here's our first one. It goes back to 1995 and the Phoenix Festival just outside of Stratford-upon-Avon at Long Marston in Great Britain. I was actually there with Faith No More, who I'd worked with for 10 years, and I was there as their tour manager and front of house engineer. Little did I know that this was to be my last ever gig with Faith No More. But that's a story for another day. The story today concerns my son, Harold Ziggy Dalton, Bob Dylan, and a piece of fruit. This is the story of Bob Dylan's pineapple. Friday the 14th of July 1995, the Phoenix Festival. Bob Dylan headlining with Faith No More headlining the following night. What a bill. I've always been a massive Bob Dylan fan, so I thought it would be a really good idea to use my All Access Areas Pass ready for the next day with Faith No More to gain entry and kind of persuade people that I should really be there. My son, who was 10 at the time, also decided he'd have a day at work with his dad, so he came with me. So in order to try and make ourselves look busy on the Friday, we sat down at one of the long catering tables, and I got out the stage plans and everything, and I was sat with the production people from the festival, and the idea was we would talk through the plans for Faith No More the following day. My son had had a pretty restless night, been a long drive down from Hull in East Yorkshire in a rickety old van with all the band's equipment in the back, and he was nagging me and being rather annoying. He kept pulling at my elbow and going, "Dad, Dad, I'm hungry, I need something to eat." And I was quite wrapped up in the work I was doing, so I said to my son, darling, there's a big table over there full of food. Go over, help yourself, you can have anything you want. It's an open buffet, please just help yourself, darling." Anyway, I went back to work. Anyway, he disappeared. And then there was a slow hush came over the room, and the room got quieter and quieter. And then I realised that I was the only person talking, and the person I was talking to kind of made that eye movement thing to me. And I looked over, and the big long catering table, those wonderful people from Eat to the Beat had built this wonderful kind of food display, and right at the top of this big kind of affair was a pineapple. Now, Harold had been staying in a tent overnight, and I probably wasn't being the best parent. He was rather muddy, quite bedraggled, his hair was looking raggy, his knees were very, very muddy, and he had some patent red Doc Martens on. And when I turned round to look, he'd climbed onto the table, stepped through all of the food, and had climbed to the top of the pile. He'd taken off the pineapple, put it under his arm, and scaled back down and was making his way towards me. And the whole room full of various rock stars and crews and audio and lighting engineers were all stood in amazement watching. And he just plonked the pineapple down in front of me and went, "Dad, I want pineapple." At which I looked to my left, and there was Bob Dylan, looking like he was nursing a hangover, very much in black and white, smoking a cigarette with sunglasses on and staring into his coffee. And I looked at Bob and I kind of did that thing where I go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Bob. Bob just pulled his glasses down, looked at me, exhaled a lot of smoke, and kind of went, "Amen, it's okay." And that's the story of how Harold Ziggy Dalton stole Bob Dylan's pineapple. If you want to hear more Smoke and Mirrors stories, let me know. I'd love to hear from you.
Unlike most of the songs nowadays are being written uptown in Tin Pan Alley, as most of the folk songs come from nowadays,